I know. Too bad there won't be a sequel.
By the end of No More Heroes, it felt like there was this limitless potential to go just about anywhere with this series. A sequel could have had new foes to slaughter and new toilets to conquer. The first game ended with a tease of more to come, but the Garden of Madness was left vacant for a couple of years. But 3 years later, a new hope would arrive in the form of No More Heroes 2, Desperate Struggle. This second entry would allow us to walk a mile in the stinky shoes of Travis Touchdown once more. What we got though was a stellar entry that doesn't reinvent the beam katana, but improves upon the foundation that was laid out before it. Today, I'd like to give the rightful king his crown, and let's be real, I just want to talk about No More Heroes again. So without further ado, let's start the game.
How about you fill us in on everything that's happened since the last game? We're not gonna be satisfied until you do, right?
Oh, give me a break. There are people starting from the sequel who don't care about continuity, you know. Besides, it would take forever if I recapped every detail of your fall from greatness. Players would skip it. It's so boring.
Sylvia may not have you covered, but I do. First, let's turn back the hands of time ever so slightly. At the end of the first game, we see Travis reach the end of his journey, and his hijinks have seemingly become legend. As to what happened to him though, was anyone's guess. However, No More Heroes 1.5 explains what Travis was up to at the end of the first game. Funnily enough, this motion comic was only available in the Hoppers edition of No More Heroes 2, the Japanese-only limited edition. But 11 years later, it was remastered and dubbed in English. I'm mega cheesed about this being widely available now. In No More Heroes 1.5, Travis is enjoying his newfound fame and glory as the town hero. He even gets a goddamn statue erected in his honor. Travis is to the Santa Destroy folk what Rocky is to the people of Philadelphia. The town has apparently also never been safer, but a new evil lurks behind the shadows. And that's gentrification, baby! The ranking fights are now being televised, meaning the fights have now become a commodity. This means that rookie punks and megacorps are now getting in on the carnage. This, coupled with Travis's performance in the last ranking ladder, means new groups of aspiring assassins are hitting the pavement. There's something a punk says to Travis that sums it up pretty nicely.
But it's you who started this war. War begets war. Killing begets killing. It really is a vicious cycle.
His words reiterate the game's main theme for us. There are now others shooting to the top like Travis did, with their actions in turn perpetuating this never-ending cycle of life and death. Violence breeds violence, and in the end, it had to be this way. Travis, being unable to handle all this new heat, disappears for 3 years. And in those 3 years, 51 other assassins all took a crack at the crown. Now we can proceed with the story properly. But not till we talk about the erotica comic. No! Really? This comic just gives Skelter Helter, the first boss, some more background. His brother, Helter Skelter, was the drifter from the first game, although Travis had destroyed him in the intro sequence. Frustrated that his brother's death was delegated to a cutscene, this Cloud wannabe wants to challenge Travis to a revenge match. And once this jobber is sent back to Midgar, Travis is once again told that there are severe consequences for his actions, and he's about to see firsthand what that entails. That night, a hit is carried out on Bishop, Travis's best friend. Once he finds out it was ordered by the UAA Rank 1 assassin, Travis enters the ranks once more, thirsting for vengeance. But before he can get to the top, he's got to claw his way back up from the bottom. A grindhouse revenge story fits the tone of this series perfectly. No More Heroes has never taken itself super seriously, and stays tongue-in-cheek about the way it presents its violence. This game is no different, but the vibe feels a lot darker compared to every other game. The art style and the music both reflect this, both taking on a grungier feel than the last one. With all these things in mind, No More Heroes 2 forms its own identity, being the only entry to explore the theme of revenge, and how that vicious cycle destroys someone. My favorite aspect that gets explored more in this game is the world of the UAA, and what kind of world Travis inadvertently helped create and left behind. We saw a bit of this in No More Heroes 1.5, but Travis became somewhat of a local legend. Some newly established assassins want glory, but a handful of them would just love to take a shot at Travis. We can see this early on in one of my favorite boss fights against Kimmy Howell, She's a student at Destroy University and is Travis's self-proclaimed #1 fangirl.
Travis Ravenous, cool hand teasy greasy.
She's kinda weird, man. Kimmy is obsessed with Travis, and those feelings get warped into a feeling of love. She thought that if she became an assassin and climbed the ranking ladder, she could get closer to Travis. Also, holy shit, the implication of the student assassin rankings is horrifying. You're telling me that Santa Destroy high schoolers are folding each other during geometry? Anyway, to prove she was Travis's #1 fan, Kimmy decided that she needed to decapitate him. This once again ties into the theme of cycles. While she wasn't directly slighted by Travis like Skelter was, his actions in turn inspired Kimmy into becoming an assassin. Travis is a little weirded out by all of this, but respects the fact that she's got the drive to make something of herself. I appreciate the team at Grasshopper fleshing out the ranked assassins even more than they did before. Also, I gotta say, the character designs are at their strongest here. Yusuke Kozaki went insanely hard again, making sure that all the characters and the boss designs were distinct and memorable. I personally think the designs peaked here. The ranked assassins continue the trend of being fun and interesting, and make it a huge treat for making it to the end of the stage. Speaking of fleshing out, I'm very pleased with Travis's characterization in this game. It remains consistent from No More Heroes 1, but we get to see how he reacts to new situations. At his core, he's a turbo nerd who's skilled at slicing heads. But this time, he's got street cred. However, all Travis wants is a good fight with someone he can truly compete with on equal footing. Travis has always been written in a very human way, and we as the player are aware of his thoughts, feelings, and moral code. Because of this, it's hard to tell what he'd do once he finally confronts his main target. Travis absolutely has to kill ranked assassins to reach the top, but finds himself hesitating from time to time. This is especially the case if he respects his opponent. This is consistent from the first game, where for example, he chooses to spare Shinobu, only cutting off her hand. That's because Travis can't bring himself to kill her. He may have a couple screws loose, but he's not a monster. This paints the picture of someone who's at odds with themselves, torn between what they want to do and what they have to do. We can see this much later in the game, after his fight with Alice Twilight. In this rare but powerful moment of self-reflection, we can see Travis deeply resents what the ranked fights have become.
See that? Now that was a battle. Look at this blood. We humans are alive, even if we are assassins. Doesn't matter if it's a video game, movie, drama, anime, manga, we're alive! People shed blood and die. This isn't a game. You can't just selfishly use death as your tool.
This scene has stuck in my head for years because it felt like Travis was not only blowing up at Sylvia, but also the player. He wants to dismantle the UAA because it turns fighting into a sport, one where assassins are treated as disposable entertainment. They bleed, but they'll be forgotten after their purpose is served. Travis is so upset because he loves fighting and respects his opponents, but is furious that they've been turned into a commodity. He addresses the player too, saying that the people he killed can bleed too, even if they are from a game. It reminded me that at the end of the day, he's a person. Fictional, but written to be like a human. And at this point in the game, your climb to the top is nearly over. You and Travis have killed so much to get here, and have only now stopped to realize the severity of your actions. This is an action hack and slash game, so you as the player have no agency over how you approach combat. You, and Travis by extension, can't choose to spare people because you have to kill people in order to reach your objective. I feel like the player's lack of choice in how they approach combat mirrors Travis's inability to break through this cycle. It's not that Travis doesn't want to fight and kill people, because he absolutely does. It's just the way he has to go about his goal isn't the way he wants to do it. He wants to be a hero by his own standards, have his cake and eat it too. In turn, neither the player or Travis can stop perpetuating this cycle, and this absolutely kills him.
Oh yeah!
No more heroes, it's hero begin to catch on nobody but yourselves, nothing less to do. No more heroes, no time to stand still if you're gonna be number one.
Travis is kill or be killed.
Anyway, No More Heroes 2 borrows a lot from the first game, but improves those things in meaningful ways. Streamlined is the easiest way to describe many of the game's carried over mechanics. The core of the gameplay loop remains the same, hack and slash till you can sever. Cutting off heads was the best part from the first game, and it remains as satisfying as ever. You still have high and low stances to use against enemies depending on how they guard, and beat attacks to open up their defenses. You can circle around again, but they nerfed it significantly. At least, to the point where it's much harder to time consistently. You could really use this to your advantage in the first game, and it made a lot of the fights a walk in the park. However, here, I've maybe pulled it off like 3 times. Dark Side mode, a slot-based power-up system, has returned as well. There are many new sweet themed specials to use. Hell, you can even become a tiger if you want. And while I miss Anarchy in the Galaxy, this time we've got... The newest feature is the Ecstasy gauge, denoted by the tiger at the bottom right. Once that tiger is raring to go, you can cash that gauge in to wreak havoc on your enemies. I've been talking a lot about streamlined mechanics, but I think the most meaningful change to the formula is the way that the swordplay feels. No More Heroes felt a bit stiff in its combat, having a lot of that 2007 Wii game jank. It wasn't bad by any means, but you can tell by playing it that the pace is a little slower due to the jank. 2's combat is tweaked to have a smoother and off-the-cuff kind of feel though. The result is combat that doesn't have any less weight than the first one did, but feels a lot faster paced overall. These adjustments create action that feels not only frenzied, but fun as hell to play. I'm also jazzed about the variety of the beam katanas in this game, and they can be freely swapped on the fly depending on the situation. Each beam katana has its own feel as well, changing the way you play the game. Rose Nasty is my favorite, not only because it looks sick as hell, but because it cuts up enemies like it's nothing. 2 beam katanas are certainly better than 1. Peony is my second favorite because it changes the way I approach encounters. The length of the katana gets longer the more your ecstasy gauge increases, becoming this massive greatsword once it's topped off. So once you get there, your reach and your power are unmatched for the trade-off of having a ton of startup on swing. I have to anticipate in advance when I need to hit, because I'd be wide open if I swung either too early or too late. This creates an interesting game of risk and reward, one where I try to hold ecstasy for as long as I can to maintain its length and destructive power. Do I cash this in now to wipe the field? Or do I try to carefully shave down health bars at the risk of being hit? Either way, Dark Side mode resets your ecstasy, so being mindful of all of these things at once is super fun to me. There's 2 new playable characters you can use in their own respective sections, Shinobu and Henry. I was excited to play Shinobu because she was my favorite character from the first game. In her absence, she's honed her skills with her katana and is ready to put them to the test. I appreciate the fact that she's using Travis's isms, because it sounds like she has no idea what the hell she's talking about. Another small touch I liked was that she has her moveset from her boss fight in No More Heroes 1. Shinobu brings verticality to her sections because she's the only character who can actually jump. Now, the jump isn't great, but it's a welcome addition regardless. The last playable character is Henry, and while you don't play as him for long, it was nice playing as your cool handsome foil for once. His strikes are much more composed and calculated compared to Travis's, who strikes with wild abandon. On top of that, he's got an omnidirectional dash, meaning he has the best movement out of all of the characters. Henry's also accompanied by a remix of his theme from 1. These new additions and tweaks go a long way in adding variety and flavor to an already great game. Variety is the name of the game here, absolutely, and that bleeds into other aspects of the game's designs. Once you step out of the No More Heroes Motel, you can see all the locations, minigames, and missions are now options on the menu. I felt conflicted at first because I did like exploring Santa Destroy in the first game. There were a lot of weird nooks and crannies with their own level of love and detailing in the overworld, and that was lost in this transition. Despite this, you do get a greater picture of Santa Destroy in this game. It now has another layer of character I've come to appreciate. It's a city that's rapidly changing due to the rise of megacorps. Now it has things like a resort, and a university, and most importantly, interdimensional portals. You know, normal things that happen during redevelopment. However, I feel like the choice to make Santa Destroy a menu is a good one. It reduces the amount of backtracking and tedium involved, once again streamlining ideas from the first game. The most notable change is that every ranking fight can be taken at your own pace, and they no longer need an entry fee. Money can still be earned in this game, but you can use it for clothing, upgrades at the gym, and even beam katanas. These are optional. If you're a masochist, you really can just ignore any form of character progression and go straight through the ranked fights. Unlocking and buying new clothes is a must to me though, because getting to customize Travis and having that reflected in cutscenes is one feature I really like. You can work side hustles to earn cash again, and a lot of the minigames are much more enjoyable this time around. They're now 8-bit NES send-ups, complete with the sound of someone blowing into the cartridge and inserting it. The side jobs once again turned grinding for money into a game, this time literally. I liked Pizza with Vengeance the most because it reminded me of the hours I spent learning how to play Outrun in Yakuza 0. Travis's room is now freely explorable in this game, once again giving the player insight on how he lives. It looks like this time though, he's done some remodeling. It looks better organized overall, but not any less Travis. He's still got stickers on his fridge, wrestling masks adorning the walls, and figures decorating his shelves. The map of Santa Destroy is still here too, and so is his body pillow. You can also play with your cat Jean again, and this time you're helping her slim down. You can also now knock over the bin full of crusty napkins as you walk around. Nothing's changed. Nothing says home sweet home like the smell of musk and kitty litter.
Everybody deals with grief differently, right? Some people fuck at funerals. I cut off heads.
Ultimately, it seems like the team behind No More Heroes 2 took the feedback from the first game to create a sequel that meaningfully improves upon everything the first game set out to do. The game at its core remains unchanged, but everything you see and do is wildly different. And to me, that's what a sequel should be. After all, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. It's insanely wild to me that I actually didn't like this game all that much when I first played it. It was still a fun experience to me, but I think I've ruined it for myself by not only playing it on bitter, but not taking a single minute to smell the roses. I thought it was too different for the first game to be the No More Heroes that I liked. And maybe this could be attributed to Suda taking the back seat this time, but in the end, it's still No More Heroes. It wasn't any less brazen, any less dumb, or even any less proud of what it actually was. And that's something I realized when replaying it this time around. No More Heroes 2 is still a goddamn solid entry in one of my favorite series. If you've made it to the end, I would like to thank you for your time and patience today. Today's piece was once again drawn by Polis, who knocked it out of the park with this Travis design. My favorite part of this artwork is Muse on Himawari's t-shirt, a group from Love Live. It's a fun spin on the bizarre jelly art that's on Travis's shirt. Her socials are on screen and in the description below. If you liked what you saw today, consider liking the video or even sharing it with your friends. Subscribing and leaving a comment is the biggest indicator that you guys want to see more of what I do. And if you've played No More Heroes 2, what did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. But as always, remember to take care of yourselves and to stay gold. I'll catch you next time.